Chapter 3. I met up with the guys at lunch. I got there late because the cafeteria is not only really far from my art class, but also amazingly well hidden. I probably would never have found it if I hadn't detected the unique aroma of burned hair, rotting peaches, and cinnamon drifting out the door. Oh, and a subtle hint of butterscotch pudding. "How's it going?" I asked. At least this part felt familiar. We'd sat together through middle school. Even the round tables were the same, and the wobbly plastic chairs. "It's going fine," Kyle said. Patrick nodded. "Yep, as long as you stay out of the way of the seniors, it's okay, except for getting lost." "Yeah, this place is like a tesseract," I said. 3 pairs of eyes stared at me. "You know, a tesseract? From A Wrinkle in Time?" The stares were joined by head shakes. "A cube twisted into another dimension," I said. Head shakes gave way to sighs. Eyes rolled toward the ceiling. Shrugging shoulders twisted into other dimensions. Never mind. "You're such a mutant," Kyle said. "Yeah, but he's our very own mutant," Patrick said. "All the other kids are jealous." I reached across the table and flipped open Patrick's assignment book. There was nothing on the page except some doodles. "No homework?" I asked. "Are you kidding?" Patrick said. "It's the first day." I glanced down and noticed Mitch's schedule. Most of the classes had TP next to them. "What's TP?" I asked. "Toilet paper," Kyle said. "If you don't know that, you'd better run home and change your underwear." "Tech prep," Patrick said. "Isn't that what you have?" "Nope." So that explained why they weren't in my classes. I was dying to ask if they'd noticed Julia, but I didn't want them to think I was obsessed with her or anything. So I sat and listened while they made fun of their teachers. Patrick was definitely right about avoiding seniors. On the way out of the cafeteria, this big guy knocked my books from under my arm. He grinned and said, "Oops, must suck to be a freshman." Then he strutted away. As I was grabbing my stuff and earning a couple of kicks in the rear from passing kids, Kyle sprinted ahead and knocked the guy's books out from under his arm. "Oops to you too," Kyle said when the guy spun around. "Must suck to lose teeth." The guy stared at him for a moment. Kyle stared back. Then the guy snatched his books from the floor and walked off. "Hey, thanks, but you didn't have to do that," I said. "No one messes with my friends," Kyle said. He'd broken his nose way back in the first grade. It had healed kind of crooked, which made him look tough. Everyone figured he liked to fight. The truth is, he broke it falling off a rocking horse. But that didn't matter. Once you had a reputation, good or bad, it stayed with you. On the way to my next class, I got relieved of my spare change by a guy who could work as a debt collector for the mob. I was glad Kyle wasn't around to try to help me. He would have gotten killed. Though I bet Bobby could have taken the guy. My little miscommunication with Tesseract was nothing compared to the language barrier that greeted me in my next class. I'd picked Spanish for my foreign language because I figured it would be easier than French or German. It seemed like a great idea, until the period started. The teacher, Ms. de Gaulle, opened her mouth and made some sounds that sort of resembled a sentence, though none of it contained any meaning. We all looked at one another and shrugged. That didn't seem to bother her. She smiled and repeated the sentence. Everyone stared at her. She spoke again, and again. Eventually, we figured out that we were supposed to repeat what she said. That seemed to make her happy. It reminded me of when I was little and I used to dream up magic spells. Abracadumbo, hocus mucus, presto squisho. During the rest of the day, I got lost 3 more times, yelled at twice, and nearly trampled when I headed up a flight of stairs when everyone else on the planet was racing down. My last class was really far from my locker, which was really far from the parking lot. I almost missed the bus. By the time I left Zenger High, my head was stuffed full of a jumble of facts and figures, and my backpack weighed 85 pounds. Between my homework and a couple of comments I couldn't resist adding, I'd already filled a page in my assignment book. At least it would be a short week, since school had started on a Wednesday. If this had been a Monday, I think I would have quit just right then and there and joined the army. Man, high school is awesome, Mouth said when we got on the bus. He looked like he'd been forced through a meat grinder at least twice. His clothes were rumpled, his backpack had footprints on it, and one of his shoelaces was missing. But he seemed happy. I tuned him out as he launched into more details about his awesome day. Scott Hudson's assignment book. English. Read The Lottery. Read Chapter 1 in the textbook and answer the questions on page 19. Learn the first 20 vocabulary words. Art. Read the article on Van Gogh. Sketch something interesting you find in your room. There's that piece of pizza that fell behind my dresser last month. Algebra. Read pages 7 to 14. Do the odd-numbered problems. From what I've seen, they're all pretty odd. Spanish. I don't have a clue what I'm supposed to do. The teacher wrote the assignment on the board in Spanish. What the heck's a cuaderno? History. Read the first 3 chapters. Answer the questions at the end. Try to stay awake. Chemistry. Read pages 3 to 14. Answer the questions on page 15. Count the atoms in your house. For extra credit, count the atoms in your neighborhood.